I'm kinda tired of Far Cry at this point, to be honest. Every game after 3 has followed the same formula of exploring in exotic places, activating radio towers, doing shit for the inhabitants with the main villain popping out once every 4 hours and repeat until they're dead, with only minor changes, and after a while it got boring. We never really got the kind of design change seen from Far Cry 2 to 3 again, even with the new generation. Will Far Cry 5 be the one to change everything and make things fresh again? Let's find out. I already know the answer, but go along with it anyway, okay? You little boob. I like Drake and Josh. Far Cry 5 is an open-world first-person shooter developed by Ubisoft Montreal and Toronto. It's the 5th main entry to the Far Cry series, and it takes place in Hope County, a fictional countryside area in Montana, USA. Out of all the locations we've seen in a Far Cry game, this is probably the least exotic. It's the countryside, trees, grass, hills, mountains everywhere with some buildings once in a while, but that doesn't mean it's not interesting. There's a cult that has taken over and redecorated a bunch of shit. They captured the people and started growing drug flowers and dumping shit in the water. When you mix the mundane with the weird and unnerving, you get a dangerous place full of gameplay opportunities. The graphics is good too. Not much to talk about since it's just trees and grass, but it's pretty trees and grass. Well, this went nowhere. Oh, and the game overall runs well too, even on my now old as fuck GTX 1070 after turning some settings down. One day. The gameplay loop is actually different from 3 and 4, which is great, but it's not all that different. This has the most freedom a Far Cry game has given to a player. The map is split into 3 big sections, each with their own boss. There's technically like 5 areas, but you'll be spending most of your time in the main 3. As soon as you come out of the vault, you can basically go anywhere and do whatever you want. Take over outposts, free hostages, do side quests or missions. You're free to explore to your heart's content. To reclaim a region, you have to fill up a resistance meter. Every time you reach a checkpoint, the boss of that region will send out a crew of dickheads to tranquilize and capture you to talk shit. But of course, every time you manage to get out somehow after like 3 times, you get to actually fight the boss. Even though this progression is new to Far Cry, it's not the first time implemented in a Ubisoft game. Assassin's Creed Syndicate had a similar system where you have to liberate districts to unlock main missions, and Ghost Recon Wildlands also, except you have to do it like 20 more times to get to the final boss. For me, this sucks big cock, because I've been through this twice already and it became so repetitive, so boring for me a long time ago. At least Far Cry 5 has some story bits to keep you entertained, instead of just seeing the same bald guy getting knocked out or just nothing in between. This is probably just a thing for me, but I find myself running out of main missions to do. They give you the most points, but right before the meter fills up, you can't find any more to do. I have to find side quests to do, and even then, they don't fill the resistance meter enough. I have to go out of my way and run all over the map to find other shit to finish, and that took a while to get done. That's good for those who want to find and do everything, but for people like me who just want to play the story, it's a hassle. At least there are no more radio towers. The upgrade system has been changed. There are no levels anymore. Instead, you have to earn perk points by doing challenges to unlock skills. The challenges can be the amount of kills you have with a certain weapon or hunting and skinning different animals. It's more freeform than the upgrades from 3, 4, and Primal since the skills are not level gated or attached to the progression of the story, which I like. Just pick the ones you want and run with them. While most of the challenges can be done by just playing the game, others you have to perform things that you might not normally do. For example, I mostly use assault rifles, but there are challenges that requires you to use other weapons, so if I want to get the most out of the upgrades, I have to use things I don't normally use. Sometimes that's a good thing, since it encourages players to experiment with things they don't normally do and switch things up a bit. But after a while, I got tired of keeping track of challenges and stopped earning perk points altogether, and the sense of progression I normally get kinda went away. It made these challenges felt like chores I had to do in order to get better, and that's not too fun. I think they should start doing things like weapon proficiency and attach upgrades to that to make progression more natural. Basically, make an RPG is what I'm saying. Just don't make the enemies bullet sponges. The companion system made a return from the second game along with animals from Primal. They work differently, of course. Each companion has a specialization from ground and air support to stealth. Just grab the ones that complement your playstyle and go to town on them cultists. Their AIs can be dumb at times, but they mostly work. Some companions make the game a bit too easy though, like the air support. Boss fights are probably the best they've been in a Far Cry game. Using drugs and hallucinations as an excuse, 3 of the 4 bosses have weird ass drug fight arenas and it does look cool. They're pretty basic though, looking better than it plays, but at least it's a step in the right direction I think. The one I enjoy the most is the one without the drugs, strangely enough. Nothing's more satisfying than wrecking a man's plane in the air and ramming him after he bails out. Overall, the gameplay is fine, there are some bugs. It's got enough new mechanics and improvements to be called a sequel, but it's a very safe sequel. There's nothing that made me say wow or jizz my pants. It's just another form of the fun times that we've had in the past 8 years now. Why do I feel old? The story starts with a deputy, who can be a guy or girl, on a helicopter ride as part of the Hope County Sheriff's crew to arrest Joseph Seed, the leader of the Project at Eden's Gate cult, or Peggy's. On your way to arrest Joseph, you can see his followers protesting his arrest and see how much influence he truly has. After cuffing Joseph, you go outside just to get shit on by all the cultists, and it gets even more fucked up as you climb onto your helicopter. The cultists start to desperately jump and cling on and try to free their father, and to no one's surprise, they take you down, freeing Joseph to start his day of reckoning. This is the best opening to a Far Cry game. It introduces the villain and shows how much power and influence he has. And throughout the intro, he's calm as fuck. It's like he's prepared for this, and that's cool, man. Though that half-naked hippie look is not my thing. Joseph has 3 lieutenants. John Seed, who's obsessed with the 7 deadly sins and carves the sin of his victims onto their body and slice that part of their skin off. He's basically the edgy emo man of the group. Faith Seed, who is the embodiment of the bliss, the drug that the Peggies use to brainwash people. Like seriously, you never see her in her normal human form, ever. You only see her when you get drugged and go into this bliss realm. Last but not least, Jacob Seed, who's a US Army veteran who's in charge of recruitment and training up cultists with brainwashing. They're kinda generic, to be honest. You know, you got child abuse, drug addiction, PTSD army man, killing your kid because God. They're pretty surface level unless you read the notes and documents that can be found throughout the map, but who's gonna do that? What is this, a fucking visual novel? Is this Nekopara? Is this Saya Song? I'm not here to jack off. With that said, there are some good moments, like Jacob's brainwashing missions and... Actually, that's the only one I can remember. Never mind, give me more of that mindfuck shit. Go all in, damn it. The main reason why Joseph started this cult is because of the collapse. It's basically the prophecy that God showed him of a giant nuking of America. He wants to save everyone by gathering as many people as possible and putting them in bunkers. Knowing words won't work, he of course went the supervillain route of becoming an evil religion man who uses God as an excuse to kill and rule with fear. Over the course of the game, the lieutenants will try to convince you that everything Joseph's doing is justified. The other main reason for this is Joseph is tired of society. He's afraid that the corporations and billionaire companies in the world will take over and everybody will start losing control over their lives. And you know what, that's a legitimate concern. If you're into politics or conspiracies, you already know this. Joseph wants to start anew, go back to a time where no one has that kind of power. So if you look at it that way, maybe this is justified. But like, is it though? I mean, I get ruling people with fear and keeping them safe, but is it really necessary to crucify people, brainwashing them to kill and drugging the water to make the frogs skate? Are you sure? I think at some point shit got out of hand and he just didn't give a shit. The nuke thing is kinda shitty too. At the end, a nuke does hit America and it's mentioned on the radio that in the Far Cry universe, there's a risk of nuclear war. But there's none of that in the main missions at all. There's like 1 or 2 scenes where Joseph kind of talks about it but never goes into full detail. I think having Joseph give some evidence of nuclear warfare, actual proof other than God told me, would go a long way in convincing the player. Without that, you can't blame the player for thinking he's just a madman. Along with that, give players the choice to take Joseph down and help him bring everyone to safety. That would have made for a climactic and satisfying end. But that's not what the game wants, because it also tries to criticize the player for trying to be the hero and stopping the villain who's been misunderstood. I think the writers were so caught up in making a "you're actually the bad guy" story and you should feel bad that they forgot to make it fun and satisfying. Instead, they make you feel bad for spending however much you paid to play the game. That's just my take though. Alright, time for DLCs. First up is Hours of Darkness. You play as a soldier during the Vietnam War. Your helicopter got shot down and your squad mates are captured. Now it's up to you to rescue them or just run to the extraction point by yourself and get the fuck out. Whether this one is fun or not depends on how you play. You have the choice of running to the extraction, or you can do all the side missions to get better gear and equipment and all that first. If you go to the extraction zone right away, it's just that, no story in between, nothing, just running and shooting some guys occasionally. There's no skill system, but instead there's survival instincts that give stealth perks the more stealth kills you do, and it resets every time you get spotted. It doesn't really add much to the overall gameplay. You have a decent amount of health too, so it's better to just shoot everything anyway. No need for stealth. It can be finished in just under an hour, and with the most underwhelming turret sequence in a game I've ever played. At the end, there's a photo that reflects what you did in the DLC. The more side shit you do, the more stuff appears in the photo. Other than that, there's not much replayability. If you like the Vietnam War setting, this could be fun, but I'd rather just play the base game instead. The second DLC is Lost on Mars, and it's probably the best of the bunch. You play as Nick Rye, one of the 9 companions you meet in the main game. So the arachnid aliens are trying to invade Earth, and Herc was chosen by this AI called Anne to save it. Then Herc got fucked up, lost his body parts except for his head, and so he called you for help. You'll be killing a lot of aliens, like a lot, with laser guns. Your main objective is activating and restoring the various research centers and power stations throughout Mars to give power to Anne in order to kill all the aliens. The map is grayed out in the beginning, so you know what that means. Radio towers! They brought back radio towers. My dick went limp after seeing these things, but at least you have a jetpack that can fly you up, so it's a bit more fun, I guess. But come on, don't go backwards. To restore a station, you need energy cores that can be found around the map by killing arachnid queens. They're the bosses of this DLC, and they can take a shit ton of lasering to kill, so be sure to get the most powerful version of each weapon by collecting a bunch of alien goo. On the surface, this looks like a simple fun time, blasting aliens and collecting semen, but it's also a very repetitive and annoying one because of Herc. Herc may not have his body, but his mind gets transferred onto this robotic one to help you through your quest. If you want to play this DLC, then you better like Herc because he'll be talking a lot, and he'll be spewing shitty jokes a lot. You know how it goes. The dumbass who tells stories about his past that always ends up with stupid resolutions and spills one-liners left and right when in combat. It gets tiring. It took me around 3 hours to beat, but I think it's an hour too long. This isn't like Blood Dragon where there's a main storyline to follow, and if you want you can do side shit like capturing outposts. The side shit is the main content. You have to get all the stations and facilities to finish the game. It's just the same 10 minutes of gameplay over and over again with no new story bits until the end. It's fun to blast aliens for the first hour or so, but unless you're a fan of the humor and gameplay loop, there's not much to keep you playing this one. The third and final DLC is Dead Living Zombies. This is your obligatory zombie mode. Think Call of Duty Zombies or Left 4 Dead. It's about this guy, Guy Marvel, pitching his zombie movie ideas and you get to play through them. It's just a very generic zombie mode with time attack modes. They try to make it interesting by breaking the fourth wall, like, a lot. There's one scene where they just spawn a blood dragon out of nowhere. While you shoot shit, Guy will keep changing the scenery with his narration, which is a cool idea, but he tries way too hard to be funny. I can't believe I'm saying this, but he's more like an annoying version of Herc. Overall, it's fine, I guess. It just makes me want to play Left 4 Dead 2 instead. Far Cry 5 is a fun, but albeit safe sequel. The combat is tight and Hope County is fun to explore due to the open-ended nature of the world. The game introduces some new mechanics and it is enough to warrant a sequel, but not enough in my opinion. The story tries to be deep, but I think it needs a bit more time in the Ubisoft oven. The DLCs are fine, not must-plays, but has its moments just like the main game. Okay, it's fun, not revolutionary or anything, but it's fine. Go get it on the sale. A year later, Ubisoft actually made a spin-off game, New Dawn, but it's actually a sequel to the 5 story. So since it's the same story, let's end with that. Far Cry New Dawn takes place 17 years after the end of Far Cry 5. A nuke hit, shit turned colorful, the people of Hope County comes out of the bunkers to start rebuilding. It was peaceful for a while, but everything changed after the Highwaymen attacked. Hope County then contacted Thomas Rush, who's a part of the group specializing in rebuilding communities, for help. You play as his captain, a right-hand man, woman of sorts. On your way to Hope County, your group gets attacked by the Highwaymen, who are led by these edgy twins. They fuck your shit up, you get thrown off a waterfall, and now it's up to you, along with some help from the Hope County community, to rebuild and take out the Highwaymen. A pretty basic plot, but can be entertaining. The gameplay is mostly the same as 5's, except they made this a looter shooter now. Weapons have ranks and you need materials to make them. There's a home base that you can upgrade that contributes to character progression, like increasing max health and ability to make higher level weapons. You need materials to do everything in this game. You can find them in specific areas or buy them with microtransactions. I hate it when games artificially increase difficulty like this. It's all about if you have the higher number or not, and not much skill is involved. If you have the right level equipment, you can kill a guy in a few shots, but if not, you're gonna be standing there pumping bullets into them for a while. It takes a while to make higher level weapons too, since rare materials are, well, rare as fuck. The gold weapons are the highest tier, so naturally it takes more rare materials, but I played through the whole game without even unlocking one of them. You don't need it, but it would make the enemies later on way less bullet spongy and more enjoyable to fight. It wasn't until I beat the game that I found out you can do expedition missions to get more rare materials, but even then it's still a grind. Everything's an endurance round without the right weapons, and that sucks dick. A new mechanic introduced is superpowers. I mean, it's basically superpowers. In the second half of the game, you get to eat a drugged up apple and it gives you some abilities like double jump and a rage mode, where you can take more damage and hit harder. What the fuck is this? Is this Far Cry or am I playing Crysis? The gameplay is no longer grounded in reality. I mean, not like Far Cry's the most grounded and realistic game ever, but you know what I mean. Ubisoft turned this into Borderlands. It's not like it's not fun or anything, it's just not Far Cry anymore, even if it did copy the gameplay from 5. To me, Far Cry is about survival, realistic gunplay, and like tactics, but this doesn't have much of those. I know this is just a spin-off, but I really hope Ubisoft doesn't go this direction for 6. This is not for me. Every time you upgrade the overall base level, the twins will come to scare you for a bit and it escalates from there. The twins are very shallow villains. They don't have any deep goals or whatever except taking shit and killing people while shouting about problem makers and problem solvers and all that edgy shit. They try to give them some character development, but it just ends up being their dad was bad so they're bad. They're the kind of villains you love to hate, but that's like the bare minimum. I don't even remember their names, that's how uninteresting they are. They're just blue bitch and red bitch. After you defeat them, the red bitch dies but the blue one doesn't, and you're given the choice to leave her or kill her. I capped her immediately after her little speech and went on my merry way. You know you fucked up when a choice such as this means so little to the player. Joseph Seed returns from 5. He started his own little medieval village and has a son. He's not a villain this time, but it's sort of a sage, wise man figure. He helps you with the twin situation by letting you eat one of his drugged apples to get superpowers, which is still ridiculous. He lived alone on this little dark drug island full of weird shit. Pretty cool actually. He has his own little story with a fitting end, so go play and see for yourself. Other than that, the story was ass. Far Cry New Dawn definitely stands out amongst the other Far Cry games, just like Primal, but not in a good way. I like the colorful post-apocalyptic look. We don't really get many colorful post-apocalyptic worlds, and it definitely stands out. The looter shooter elements make this Far Cry different than the rest, adding grind and microtransactions, time savers, making the game artificially difficult at parts. The story and villains are uninteresting and underdeveloped. I didn't care about anything that went on. There's no reason to play this unless you want to see Joseph. Maybe if you like looter shooters, you might want to check this out, but come on, there's better shit out there. Fucking Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet's better than this. Skip unless you're really curious. Alright, that's all for ya boy. Took a while to make this because playing 2 games is long and I was just feeling lazy, man. Anyway, happy holidays. Hope y'all don't catch the Rona. See you whenever the next one is. Bye.
try